It's smoking. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be trying to work with something I inherited from my father. So back in around Christmas 2018, my daddy, he died. And one of the things that I got was a grill. And so you'll see his name on there. And it's different than what I'm used to. I'm still trying to learn this grill. So I'm going to use something that I love to smoke all the time, a Boston butt. So we're going to smoke a Boston butt, and then I'm going to use an invasive tree that I am loving. It's got a flavor that is just phenomenal. And then afterwards, I think we're going to take a sandwich, a well-beloved sandwich, and try to turn it on its ear a little bit. So stay tuned. I'll do a very simple video showing how I smoke a Boston butt. The only seasoning that will be on here is Lowry seasoning salt. I'll season all sides, so I'll spare you that part. So let's talk about the meat for a second. As you'll see, it's very orange looking. That is from the Lowry seasoning salt. If you never tried Lowry's, it started out as a restaurant doing prime rib, and they got so famous for the seasoning that they have transitioned over. I think there's like 1 or 2 restaurants left in America, but they almost do just exclusively the seasoning. You want to get all sides, you want to pat your meat dry, and then put on your salt. And the idea is that this kind of sits and rests a little bit so that the salt kind of goes back into the meat and the meat is mostly dry. You need a dry meat because it produces a type of protein called pellicle. And pellicle acts like Velcro to smoke. And so the smoke will grab onto the meat better. So if you have, now I didn't have a rack here, but it's better to actually have a cooling rack with your meat on it, letting it set and rest, and have a fan blowing on it. And then that way the pellicle will develop better. I don't have that set up, so I couldn't do it. Now let's talk about the smoker. Alright, this is a smoker that I inherited when my father passed away. And so if you see Lee on there, that's my father's name. I actually had his name on it. So this smoker is not what you would call a traditional Florida barbecue or a Texas barbecue or any southern barbecue for that matter. The term for smoked meats or barbecue that we use today is actually kind of new. It started out about the 70s to 80s with offset smoker design. True Florida barbecue, you would actually have coals on the ground or in a pit, and then you would have a rack or rotisserie with your meat on it, and then you would take a mop and have a mopping sauce and you would mop your meat down. That is traditional Florida, and that's also traditional Texas. I know I'm going to make a lot of people from Texas mad, but it's the truth. And if you find a true Texas barbecue that does it that way, it is something special. I think there's one in Tampa that does it, but very few in Texas are left that do it that way. And like I said, the only one I know in Florida does it is in Tampa, and they do it basically Florida style, true Florida style. But I've got some hot coals here because this is so far down below that it would actually not create enough heat. So this is like a cold smoke setup. So if I wanted to cold smoke something, I wouldn't have charcoal here. I would just have some coals here. So in order to have my offset heat, I've got my coals on one side. I'm barely holding my hand up over the coals before it gets too hot. That's perfect. They're all white and ashy, the charcoal that I'm using. The other side is nice and cold, and that's what I'm wanting. So that will actually allow the heat to be there to cook our meat over here, but it won't actually be on direct heat. Now, I've got some coals here going, and then I've got my wood soaking. This right here is basically invasive tree in Florida. It is called popcorn tree. And so this has been soaking in water, and the reason why we do this instead of the dry wood, which you see a lot of people use, you want that smolder. The smolder is where you get your flavor. So a lot of people will age wood for a year or more and then try to smoke it dry, and they talk about this off-putting flavor. Well, that's because they're using dry wood. Alright, I've got 3 humps of wood in here, and now that the coals are starting to lap away at it, it'll start drying off some of that wood and start catching it and getting that smolder going, which we need. Alright, so now we're just going to take this fat side up and place it on our smoker. Alright, now we'll close the lid. And then I want to close these as well. I've already closed the lid to the cold box. So I've got 2 little smokestacks here, and then there it is. So this right here, what will happen is that as that fire builds up, we'll start getting smoke coming out. That smoke will come up. It'll be pulled by the heat. The heat is already raising the temperature up here, so we're at a barbecue level. It's a little bit too hot right now, but it's good enough. It'll die down eventually, but that heat will draw the smoke up, and then it'll bring it up over the meat. And so that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a system going where the smoke is flavoring the meat. A lot of people, they'll use Dales, they'll use all these different things, they'll use special rubs. You don't need it. Actually, all you need is salt and pepper, maybe garlic powder. That's all you really need. And I actually said that wrong. You need granulated garlic. Granulated garlic is different garlic powder. It doesn't clump up as bad. I recommend using granulated garlic, not garlic powder. But if you have garlic powder, you can use that. You can put a little onion powder on there as well. But really and truly, all you need is salt and pepper. The smoke is what's doing the job. And that's where I think a lot of people mess up doing their smoking, or barbecuing as we're really doing, is that they don't think about the fact that it's the smoke. You're letting the smoke flavor the meat. If you're more worried about rubs and all that, just do grilling. My God. Just put that on there, fast heat, cook it real quick, and you get the experience of smoke flavor, but none of the time involved. This is slow and low, which again is not Florida, it is not Texas, it is not anything truly southern, not since the 1980s, really. But now that time has passed, it is considered to be traditional. It is not. But if you're going to do low and slow like I'm doing, then you need to let the meat and the smoke do the flavor. Every time you add a different type of wood smoke, you're going to change the flavor of the meat. Okay? So that pork right there will taste differently if you add cherry, if you add pecan, if you add hickory. Every single wood will give it a different flavor. Alright, so in this case I am using popcorn tree, also called Chinese Tallow Tree, to smoke it. That will give it a unique flavor that you will not find at any restaurant. I love it. It tastes wonderful. I have used cherry. I love cherry. And if you really want to try and see how different types of wood flavors meat differently, get you some very inexpensive chickens or turkey and put it on and smoke it. It cooks faster than pork or beef, so it doesn't take as long, and you can try different stuff. Dogwood, plum, any type of wood, and excuse me for the helicopter, I live near a bunch of military bases. That is the sound of freedom. But any type of fruit wood, any type of hardwood will work. Now, so you can use any type of those types of woods. Like I said, I've used cherry. Cherry gives a great flavor. When I'm smoking fish, I will use oak because oak tends to have an acidic flavor to it. Pecan is extremely mild. That is my father's favorite, but is extremely mild. And I wouldn't use on anything other than maybe chicken or turkey or something like that because it is so mild. Hickory is a southern staple. I don't really care for mesquite. Sorry, Texas guys, but I just don't care for it. But yeah, I mean, I even have a friend that he swears by wild plum. We have a bunch of wild plums in this area. He swears by it. I have smoked with citrus tree. Citrus tree's okay. Peach is very similar to hickory. So if you like hickory, peach wood is similar to hickory, not that much different. I know somebody that he likes to use persimmon wood. Again, persimmon wood is very similar to hickory, a little different, but not much. So you'll find that some trees will have similar flavor profiles and others will not. So just keep that in mind as you play around. But yeah, there's people who love dogwood. They use all sorts of woods to give different flavors. And once you realize that, you can use wood as a spice. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Think of the wood as a spice. You don't want to overpower it. You just want a low, slow smolder and then let it go. This is going to go for about 6 hours, 7 hours. So it'll probably be about 7, 8 o'clock tonight before my Boston butt is ready. Alright, so keep that in mind. This is a very low and slow process. After that, then I'll probably let it rest overnight and then we'll eat it the next day. I think that it's best to let smoked meat rest and let flavors develop. That's my personal preference. Some people, they like to take it right off the smoker and eat. I don't think that's the best thing to do. I'd rather let it sit overnight and let those flavors develop and then I eat it the next day. Okay, it has been about 2 hours. It's smoking good. That temperatures went down some. A little bit hotter than what I like, but you gotta remember, this side has the heat, this side don't. And if you'll remember, I actually put the meat with the thick side towards the heat because it can withstand a little bit more heat than thin side. So when you're using indirect heat like I am, that's where you want to put your thicker side towards the heat source. Now there is a saying, and I believe it: if you're looking, you ain't cooking. So you'll notice I'm not lifting the lid. If I lift the lid, all that smoke, all that heat, all the stuff that I'm trying to get done to the meat goes away. So leave the lid alone. Don't look. In fact, I'm going to get my hair cut. So I'm just going to leave it like this. It's doing fine. I'll be back in about an hour or two. When I get back, I'll check it. That'll give it about, 4 hours, something like that. We'll see how it's doing. I think people overcomplicate stuff and they get in the way of producing good food because they worry and fuss over stuff way too much. Quit fussing over your food. Let the food cook. Now, before somebody says something, I did leave the house and everything, but my wife was here in case there was a problem. But now I'm going to check the meat. The meat is doing fine. As you can see, most of the coals are burned off. I may add some more coals just to get the heat up a little bit. But for right now, it's still good. And so now let's put that back down. Put these back on here. We're going to add some more wood to this and then let it keep on. Actually, I don't even need to add wood. That shows you how slow, when you soak your wood, how slow it takes, because it's almost like 1:30 in the afternoon. I started at 11. So it's not a fire, this is just a smolder. I did have some lump charcoal that I just added in here. That'll just heat up and it'll keep the heat going. But other than that, we're going to put this back on and let it continue cooking. Alright, time to check in on the meat. What I've been doing is just adding some coals on this side here just to make sure that the heat gets up to the right temp. It's been staying somewhere between 250 and 350. Again, where my light beam is on this side is where most of the heat is. The meat's over here, so it's on an indirect heat. And here's our Boston butt. Let's give it a temp check real quick. Alright, so right now the temp is not quite there. It's 142, almost 143, not quite where I want it. I want to get it up to 160, so we're going to add some more coals and let this cook a little longer. Okay, I got some more coals going. We'll check back probably in about another, I'd say, give it about another hour. Alrighty, so there's been some challenges with this, trying to keep the coals going with this type of smoker. It's not like a smoker that you buy, and so the design of it, there's a few flaws that I have to work out, but it's finally ready. So what we're going to do is I've got some tinfoil over here, and so we're going to wrap it up in tinfoil. I'm going to put it in the refrigerator, let it sit overnight, let those flavors continue to marry, and then I'll bring it back up temp the next day. Alright, and there's our little tinfoil setup. See you the next day. Alright, let's remove it from the oven and see how it looks. My God, it looks delicious and smells amazing. Okay, so with the smoked pork, I thought we would do some Cubans. And with the Cuban, I always like to have fried bananas. Plantains are traditional, but also fried bananas are traditional. And I like these a little bit greener, but I was going to cook yesterday and plans got changed, so these are a little riper than what I normally like. You want them to be green on the stem and then yellow, bright yellow, so these are about a day past what I normally like. They'll be a little sweeter, they'll be fine, but they have a Madura flavor to them, so kind of like a sweeter plantain. If you fry them when they're totally green, they have a regular green plantain taste, kind of like what you normally get in a restaurant. It tastes very much like a potato chip. So I'm going to get these cut up into little coins and fry them off, and then we'll start with our sandwich. Now these are fried bananas, fried out traditional way, just cooked in oil and then salted at the end. But I'm going to try something different with the last batch. A Chinese man said that the way that he likes to do them is to coat them in corn flour. I've never done this before, so I've got some cornstarch. I'm going to coat them in it and see how this last batch does, so I can do a compare and contrast between the two. Well, from a frying perspective, these fried up a lot easier and better, because what happens is these things right here will puff up and get like 4 times normal size, and because there's so much sugar and starch, they kind of stick to everything and they kind of mess up the grease. This right here, they puffed up and they kind of stay puffed up, but I won't know until I actually try one out, so I'm going to let some cool and we'll check them out. Okay, I got 4 tablespoons of butter and a tablespoon of coconut oil. I'm going to wrap this up in some saran wrap, pop it in the microwave for a few seconds just so that the oil and butter is melted. While we're at it, let's try one of these new way of doing the bananas with the cornstarch. It's okay. This is traditional. No comparison. Stick with the traditional. Depth of flavors there. Everything about it is way better. Got more caramelization. Got more notes. Everything about it is way better. So stick with that. Don't try the corn flour. You know, it was an elderly Chinese man. He was talking about that's how they do it. I know that the Cuban population down Miami, they use a lot of Chinese influences, like a cochinita. That's a type of grill that they use. It means Chinese cooker or Chinese box. And it really is a great thing. So I was going to try that, but it just isn't good. Stick with traditional. Just cut up bananas, fry them, medium high temp, low, slow, get that good caramelization, take them out, and then salt them. That's the ticket. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit here and use sub rolls. I'm not using Cuban bread, but really and truly, if you were going to do a traditional pressed Cuban, you would have your dough that you would bake on palmetto leaves. And just about every bakery that sells what they claim to be Cuban bread does not do it that way. So even the stuff claiming to be authentic isn't authentic. So this would be fine. I've had dozens of Cubans that were fixed this way when you buy them at a restaurant. They taste just as good as the original. Well, I won't say just as good, but passable enough. That true Cuban bread on palmetto leaves is to die for. But since we don't have that, we're going to use this. Okay, so I've got the buns lightly buttered, and now we're going to toast them in a pan. Bread's toasted up. Now time to put on some mustard. Alright, you never want to go heavy on the mustard, but you do want a nice light even coating. Next, normally Swiss cheese is something most people use, but I don't like Swiss, so I'm using provolone, non-smoked provolone. Alright, now we'll put on the ham. Alright, now normally you would put a pork butt or pork shoulder that was marinated in a sour orange sauce and roasted with garlic and all that. We're going to put the smoked pork on instead. Now, I've been told in the early iterations of this sandwiches development that barbecued or smoked pork may have been used, but I can't find any proof to say it's true or not. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to add some pickles, and that's going to be it for our Cuban. Now we'll top this and fix up the rest of the sandwiches and put them. I don't have a sandwich press, so we'll actually fry them on a skillet. Now on low heat, what I'm going to do is just press these down with a spatula, much akin to what a sandwich press would do. It's best that I can do with what I got. Very easy fix to a problem. So we'll just slowly cook these. Take your time. Don't go on high heat. Go on a medium-low heat. Like I said, take your time with this. You're making perfection. Also, just to make the perfect sandwich in the world even better, I put butter, that butter and coconut oil in the pan so that got a little bit of that flavor going on too, and it'll help it cook better. Alright, here it is. The smoked Boston butt Cuban sandwich with fried bananas. Okay, so let's have a try of this sandwich. So good. I love a Cuban. It is the best sandwich ever. Smoke is a little bit overpowering for this. I think roast pork is better. But for something different, this isn't bad. I love it. You don't realize how much I love these things. Now let's try it with a fried banana. I got fried banana here. Actually, I got a couple because I love these things. My God. These are addictive. If you've never made these, you need to make these. Man, they're so freaking good. If I ever get started on them, I'll eat like 2 hands of bananas by myself fried up. My goodness. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, I'm still getting used to this smoker. Like I said, I inherited it as my father's. So I'm learning how to use it. It's made a little bit differently than some of the smokers I'm used to, but it does a really good job. That pork just by itself was amazing. On a sandwich, it's awesome. My wife and I, we're going to split that meat up, and then we'll use it. We'll freeze some of it, and we'll use some later. Make soups, barbecue, all sorts of stuff. It's just awesome to have. It's so good. You know, you owe it to yourself. Try smoking yourself a Boston butt. Pick a wood that you like. Experiment. Smoke some chickens. Give it a try. It will open up your understanding of cooking. Well, if you found anything important, valuable, entertaining, please give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out the channel. Comment down below if you smoke meats. What's your favorite wood to smoke with? I'd love to hear that. Subscribe if you hadn't already. Hit that notification bell so you can be alerted to future content. And I'll see you again next time, guys. Bye.